Hello, I'm Sona Akmakjian, Global Head of Strategic Accounting Partnerships. I'd like to welcome all of you to our session today. Having been in the industry for 30 years, I can tell you, it used to be that the larger accounting firms dealt with the big business issues, and the smaller firms dealt with the smaller and often local business issues. Thanks to Wayfair, a decision a few years ago, and the accelerated pandemic push to e-commerce we've seen over the last 2 years, accountants everywhere are being asked to do more. Clients have new, complex, and often international issues that they're dealing with. And in the meantime, accounting firms are also trying to grow their businesses. And to scale, they need help with this increasingly complex world of tax compliance. We've accelerated into the 21st century way of doing business all over the world. So how can you, as a trusted advisor for your clients, transform your firm into this 21st century accounting practice? Well, let's talk about that. Please welcome Kenji Kuramoto, CEO of Acuity, and Mark Woodward, partner at Moss Adams. Hello and welcome to both of you. Kenji, can you please tell the audience a bit about your company?
Thanks, Sona. Yeah, I'm Kenji with Acuity. We are an outsourced accounting firm who serves small businesses and very highly innovative entrepreneurs, those who are software companies, e-commerce, crypto, and the creative services businesses. We have about 150 team members throughout the world, most of them here in the US. And again, happy to be here today.
Thank you for joining us. Mark, tell us a little bit about Moss Adams.
Sure. Moss Adams is a public accounting firm headquartered in Seattle. We have about 300 plus partners and a few thousand employees. We're based primarily on the western half of the US, and we serve all markets and industries, primarily focused in the middle market.
Thank you both, and I really appreciate you being here with us today. So let's jump right into the Wayfair decision of a few years ago. It's been described as an octopus that's been growing new arms more and more directions. As more businesses join marketplaces or sell internationally, the tax administrators and regulators out there are finding new ways to tax digital goods, tangible personal property, or even services. In other words, everything. Keeping up with Wayfair manually as it expands is almost an impossible challenge. And it is true that technology has enabled these businesses to grow. The number of companies leveraging the cloud to scale greatly increased during the pandemic. But when these businesses have questions, they want to call their accountant, the trusted advisor. Mark, can you briefly describe what Wayfair is and how it has impacted your business?
Sure, be happy to. So, it's actually a really interesting question because when Wayfair first came down in mid-2018, we thought it was going to be essentially sort of a tidal wave of new opportunity for companies to kind of have to deal with this new law. And so what ended up happening, though, was I think there was a little bit more of a measured or gradual kind of reckoning, if you will, with respect to the decision. And what I mean by that is that I think some companies were ahead of it, in front of it, they knew about it, they embraced it, they dealt with it head on. Other companies, I think, sort of maybe put their head in the sand a little bit and sort of said, or maybe we're in a little bit of denial, and everything kind of in between. And what we saw as well is that not only domestic companies, but international companies were impacted by this. It has a very broad approach that needs to be taken into account. And so, I think it was more of a gradual reckoning, and a lot of companies, particularly smaller companies, have learned since then that they need to deal with it, and it's not going away, unfortunately.
Yeah, so regardless to the size, whether it's international company, small company, or large, they were all impacted by this. Kenji, can you share your experience dealing with this explosion of e-commerce and Wayfair?
Sure. And I like what Mark said there about that gradual kind of adoption or rollout, and how some companies probably put their heads in the sand. And I'll just state that some firms, like us, we kind of put our heads in the sand too. We've been predominantly serving software companies. That's what we focused on and kind of thought, you know what, this isn't really an issue we have to get involved in. We don't need to worry about that. We can just maybe make intros to other firms who do that work and stay out of it. But what we found is we really couldn't avoid it. There's not a way to avoid it. It started impacting all sorts of clients, ones who maybe had traditional brick and mortars, who suddenly came to us and said, hey, we opened up an e-commerce store. We found out that we had to adapt pretty quickly. We could not leave these clients in a lurch. We had to look for tools. We had to find ways to help addressing them. So I think all of us, not just companies, but even as firms, we have to step up to this challenge. But it was a little difficult at first, for sure.
And Mark, you guys do a lot of work around M&A. How does this impact your business in that area?
Yeah, sure. So that's exactly right. I'm a state and local tax partner, and I specialize in mergers and acquisitions and due diligence and structuring work on the state and local side. And what I find is, it's pretty amazing that even this far out from the Wayfair decision, on a regular basis, we're seeing companies that are targets for our in a buy side transaction that just really either don't have any awareness of it or really just haven't gotten in front of it and dealt with it appropriately. And it's kind of it's interesting because you would think in preparation for a transaction, a company would sort of do some sell side diligence perhaps and sort of look at that. But again, a lot of times that's not the case. So we're finding tax exposures on a regular basis. And as Kenji mentioned, particularly in certain industries that are not obviously, selling tangible personal property, retail, for example. I mean, a lot of times there's technology companies and SaaS and healthcare, all kinds of different industries where, not the normal things that you think sales tax applies to. And that may be part of what drives that. But it's also just an industry that's constantly in flux. And, as you mentioned at the outset, the states, now that they have the Wayfair decision kind of as a tailwind, they're really going after and adopting and proposing new legislation to tax, new things like digital advertising or services and so on and so forth. So,
which really continues to complicate things even more. So you're dealing with growing businesses that want to keep growing and don't want to be slowed down by these new regulations and jurisdictions. How does a practitioner deal with all these increasing volume of requests in different areas coming at you?
Sure. Well, I think what's really important is that I think we're at a bit of an inflection point. And what I mean by that is you need to sort of, if you have clients and you're a firm trying to serve your clients, you need to sort of decide, how do you want to fit into that? Do you want to be a full service provider, perhaps, guide and your clients along the sales tax journey, if you will, their sales tax journey, and be sort of a solution for them? Or do you want to help them navigate to another solution such as Avalara or other providers? I think, especially for smaller accounting firms, that's a real decision. I think it's important too, because a lot of times I think there can be a little bit of a fear of losing, sort of that stickiness with your clients. And so it's important to sort of leverage other people's expertise, build relationships and network with some of these others as advisors, particularly if you're not going to jump into the waters and do it all yourself. And I think unless you're a large enough firm with that kind of capacity, it's probably best to partner and leverage other people with technology solutions that specialize in that area. So,
yeah, I totally agree with Mark there. I think that that message for folks like us at smaller firms is there are opportunities out there. There's options that we can give our clients. We can't say no. We shouldn't say I don't know. Those are not viable options anymore. What are good options are partnering with a good technology solution like Avalara. That helps bring that complexity level, which is only increasing, as both Sona and Mark alluded to. helping, even a smaller firm like us address some of those needs. It's a great piece of software because it allows even very small, like a sole proprietorship, to get out there and help address needs of clients. And then when things get more complex, I think you don't have to have a state and local tax function like Mark heads up, but having relationships, like Mark said, to be able to hand things off. But again, I think a solution like Avalara helps make sure that these clients aren't falling through the cracks when they are smaller and growing, and then having a partner down the road that handles much more complicated issues is definitely the way that we should be helping serve them.
Yeah, one other thing I'd just add there is that it's really not a one-size-fits-all situation. Some companies, for example, really need what I refer to as a tax engine, and Avatax with Avalara certainly is one of those. But it really sort of depends on where you are in your life cycle, whether you want a tax engine, whether you want the full-blown compliance solution, one or the other or both, and also just how many returns do you need to file? How complex are those filings? How frequent are those filings? And that's going to vary by business to business and industry to industry and company to company. So I think it's really about stepping back and taking a look at your overall picture of where you are today, where you're looking to be tomorrow. And you may be somebody who's going to go out and acquire a bunch of other companies that also have their own sales tax issues. So I think it's important to pick a solution and pick a provider, probably multiple providers that can integrate and coordinate and collaborate together to drive your client the best solution that fits their need.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Mark. Again, I think that it is important for all of us to step back and take a look at kind of where we're at. And honestly, it's exciting what our entrepreneurs and small businesses are able to do these days, largely because of technology. They're able to outsell goods from their maybe small one-time little storefront all throughout the world. It's really an incredible place for small businesses to be. The challenge is it just brings a whole lot of compliance in that they're not used to dealing with. And so it just means that we can't be out there not helping. We're going to, even the very small clients are going to be out there dealing with the issues that Wayfair brings to right out to its front doorsteps. There's all these different channels they're now selling from. We have to kind of, step up and address these needs. And again, technology is kind of what got our clients here. There's some great technology solutions that are going to help, I think, them address these issues as well.
Absolutely. Technology's enabled the clients to get there, but technology is also going to enable the practitioners like yourselves to really scale and grow so you can meet the continued demands of your clients. So really in this fast changing and expanding environment, there's really one thing that you can count on. If it hasn't yet landed at your firm's doorstep, it will. Clients are going to be expanding into new markets, like we've been saying, no matter where you or your business is. And there is going to be an area where they need your help. So you are, as a practitioner, going to need to be in the 21st century model. Whether you're expanding into multiple states or selling cross-border, it's all going to get more complicated in the years to come. So we're coming at the end of our time slowly, but before we wrap up this session, Kenji, what is one advice do you have for the accountants and practitioners in our audience today?
I think there are probably many out there who are like me as an accountant. I don't come from a tax background. And so I was hesitant. I was a bit nervous about getting pulled. I felt like I was getting pulled into sales tax, not of my own desires or accord. But what I'll tell you is we can't shy away from it, can't put our head in the sand. There is more complexity that's going to come. The states are going to continue to want to find revenue sources. So we're going to need to address it. And the great good news is with a tool like Avalara, you don't have to understand all the rules in all these states. You don't have to be a tax expert. Avalara really can help. And I think that even beyond that, there may be opportunity for you in this new challenge and change to where you've never would even consider a sales tax practice, that maybe that's something now you can be thinking about as a new practice line or a way to bridge a gap for clients to where certainly when they need, an expert who really knows SALT like Mark does, state and local taxes, you can offer them there, make an intro there. But between that point, you may have been hesitant. There's a great opportunity for you to possibly even generate a practice and some significant revenues for your firm while helping address these needs.
Great advice. Thank you so much, Kenji. Aligning with the right network of professionals, which can be, accounting firms like Moss Adams, or it could be accounting alliances, or aligning with critical technology that's going to help you grow and enable you to scale your business is really going to be critical. And Mark, what is your thoughts to the audience?
Sure, thanks, Sona. I would say that really, I'm not going to say anything controversial here. I think it's really all about just listening to your clients and really understanding where they are in their sales tax life cycle or journey. Really trying to really bring them a solution, and you're really not alone in doing that. You need to, in order to provide those solutions, you probably need to really align yourself with partners, whether it be from a software technology perspective with a firm like Avalara, or a more broader sort of consulting approach when you're looking at taxability decisions and things of that nature. And I think it's really collaborating and networking with other firms and other advisors and building those relationships so that you can bring these services to bear upon your clients and really have trust and faith that they're going to get a good solution for their needs. And so those are sort of the two things I would say is critical, because as Kenji pointed out, I mean, this is not going away. It's something that everyone is having to or will be dealing with more and more and more, especially as companies grow, particularly internationally, but certainly domestically. And so those would be the two things I would definitely advise.
Great point. We can never forget the voice and the interest of the client, so it's a really good point, and it should be a reminder for all of us. But, I've heard you guys say some critical things. Things are complicated, and they're going to get even more complicated. Clients are selling all over the place, and they're going to continue to sell and create more complexity for themselves, entering new states and new jurisdiction, international issues. And adoption of technology is critical, whether you're the client or an accountant. You cannot say no to your clients. You need to figure out whether it's the network around you or if it's technology, how you're going to grow into new areas so that you can continue to be that trusted advisor to your clients. So that's the advice for you. I would like to thank you two, Mark and Kenji, for being part of our great session and providing your thoughts today. I also want to thank the audience for being here with us. I hope you found the session just as intriguing as I did. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.